Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Theater of Football on this glorious of Mondays. Today, I am, first of all, I am Mike Hodem, and I am joined by Patrick Heinrich.
Hey, everybody.
Patrick, how'd you enjoy the game yesterday?
Well, I like how we're starting out the week with Monday cheery optimism after our game yesterday. But I thought, obviously, it's disappointing, the end result. I thought really that everyone played really well. I was surprised at some of the quality that we had from some of the people out there on the pitch. I thought one person in particular when I saw the lineup, we saw Fred out there instead of Madic. I think you and I were like, Fred, why Fred? Why would you go with Fred, not Madic? But I thought Fred played so well that game. It is really unfortunate that the end result ended up being what it was, because I thought that was like, a defining game for him and how well he played. But I thought everyone else played really well, minus, probably 5 or 6 errors that unfortunately cost us the match.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, our last video, you mentioned that you wanted somebody in there that's a clinical finisher, and that's why you were all for us signing Jadon Sancho. So after watching yesterday's game, do you think that's still an issue?
Yes, I think that is definitely still an issue. Emphatically, yes. But I think there were other issues raised too. But I think having a clinical finisher would have been loads better than what we had in that game yesterday.
I'm going to ask you this because Jeremy, who's not able to be with us today, he talked to me after the game, and he was disappointed with Rashford, and a player he really likes, Rashford, but he was disappointed with him, and he didn't understand why Ole wouldn't take Rashford off for Ighalo and move Martial out on the left, say, I don't know, around 20 minutes ago, sometime a little bit before Sevilla went in front. Is that a move you would have made?
I don't know that I would have made it in that way, but I definitely would have taken off Rashford. So I definitely agree with that. Personally, I would have thought of taking off Rashford and perhaps putting in James on as a replacement, as a substitution. But I definitely would have substituted him out a lot earlier.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have brought on James for Rashford, and I liked Jeremy's idea. I like Ighalo. I feel a little bit bad for him that he hasn't gotten to play as much since we came back from the break, and now of course the season's over, so he won't get to play again until September, middle of September probably. The problem with what Jeremy was suggesting is that Martial was doing so well. He was tormenting Sevilla's back line, getting in so many good positions. He just couldn't get the ball past Bono.
Yeah.
And when you have a striker or a number 9 playing so well, I understand when a manager doesn't necessarily want to make that decision. I think it goes back to just having a lack of depth. And you would have put in James. You had enough trust in James to put him in that situation. That's great. I don't think Ole does, even though he ultimately did put him in for a last throw of the dice there in stoppage time. But I think it just goes back to lack of depth, especially in attacking options. I mean, you look at our squad and the players who are injured now. Well, all the injuries are in our back line. So our midfield, everyone is available. Our attacking players, everyone's available. So he just doesn't trust anybody. Lingard played very well against Last, but he didn't trust him to come on yesterday. He did trust Mata to come in along with James for a brief cameo. At that point, I just say don't even make substitution. Just stay with what you got. I do understand maybe putting on Ighalo really late when you need a goal, because even though you don't necessarily expect him to, I think it's easier to find that finish when you've been on the pitch for 2 minutes than it is to unlock the door to create that opportunity for someone to finish.
Yeah.
which I think is something that would be difficult for Mata to do. Now, he did do that basically within 3 or 4 minutes against Copenhagen when he found Martial, who won the penalty. But usually I just think it's difficult to come on when you're a creative type of player, you create for others and you have stoppage time to basically go create something.
Yeah.
It's difficult. Mata, I think, hit 2 terrible crosses. So.
Yeah.
The one substitution watching the game that I thought I would make would be around the 60th, 65th minute. I thought Brandon Williams looked shattered by that time. He looked exhausted. He looked like he had nothing left in the tank. And then the second, I don't think it's surprising that their winner came from that side. He got beat. He wasn't able to close the cross down. And I'll talk about the other aspect of that goal in a second, but I would have taken him off in the 60th or 65th minute for Fosu-Mensah, just for fresh legs there. And that wouldn't have changed really anything with our attack, I don't think. But he did look tired, and he was on a yellow card.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been a substitution.
Yeah, well, also, I mean, we talked about the trust of the attacking team, and it's almost, you could say the same thing about Williams, like he doesn't trust Fosu-Mensah to put him on early enough to switch out an obviously really tired Brandon Williams. So I think it's not only in the attacking side, I think it's all over. Just the depth and the breadth of our bench needs to be resolved.
Yeah. And one position where we definitely need somebody, you could argue we need another fullback, and I agree with that too. Mm-hmm. But we definitely need a center back. And you look at that winner by Sevilla, and you look at the camera angle that was kind of level with the six-yard box, or maybe with the penalty spot there. You could see. You could see Lindelof's positioning 2 yards in front of the 6-yard box there. Mm-hmm. And he's just kind of standing there, and you see him just kind of looking at the ball, its positioning, and where Maguire is, and he doesn't want to drop any deeper to make the offsides line go back any further.
Right.
And I think that's just like I understand what he's thinking, but when the ball is out wide like that and they're going to put in a cross and they don't have numbers forward, there's only one spot that a decent cross can go, and that's right across the 6-yard line. Right. And if he before the cross even moved in, he could have moved those 2 yards and gotten, stood basically right on the 6-yard line, did nothing, and the ball would have hit him square in the face. Yep. And he doesn't do that. Instead, he's caught 2 yards out, and he's turning towards goal to try and clear that ball, and he ends up pulling out because he's afraid he's going to put the ball in his own net.
Right.
And they tap home. So I don't know what he's doing. And you could blame me for this because just 2 minutes prior, I was thinking, wow, Lindelof's really having a good game today. And I thought the same thing against Southampton, and he let his marker go against Southampton, who tapped in from close range to equalize in that match. And then this happened yesterday. Now, I don't think Maguire's covered himself in glory this season either.
Nope.
But we definitely need somebody there. And I don't know if it's going to be – Ole seems to be in love with Maguire, so it's probably going to be to partner Maguire. Maybe Maguire would be better if we bring in a left-footed center back, which would probably shift Maguire over to the right side. So maybe that'll be more natural for him.
One thing too that is it drives me crazy about Maguire in particular is he has been so inaccurate in front of the goal with his headers, and that was one of his crowning things. Like, that's something that we wanted, and he has done the worst job at that this year, at least since the restart. And I think, if we bring, like you said, if we put him on the left side and bring in another really tall, strong center back that's good at his head, that would also be something great that I would think too.
Yeah, it was good you brought up Maguire because there was one opportunity off a corner in the first half that it was an outswinging corner from Bruno, and I believe he was close to the penalty spot. So it's difficult to score from there.
Yeah.
but the defender went up for it, completely missed the header,
Yeah.
and it fell to him, and it just hits him in the top of the head and goes way over the bar.
Yeah.
And it was like he didn't anticipate the defender missing that header. And this isn't the first time we've seen him do that.
Yeah.
He's done that a handful of times at least this season, where he doesn't anticipate the defender missing a header. It's like, you miss headers all the time. Why don't you anticipate that?
That's right.
It's just frustrating.
Yeah.
So I agree completely. His ability and the other team's box, he hasn't done well with either. This brings us to my final point I really want to discuss, because the season's now over, and Ole was asked after the game once again about transfers, and he said something like, it's about signing quality players, not necessarily the marquee player. And I read that into, we need to sign a handful of good players that add quality, because that's the word he used, to the squad. And he said it's not about the marquee player. I thought that was almost like blatantly saying that, almost like we're done going after Sancho. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but it was kind of like that. He was saying that. But between that comment and how unwilling he was to use the bench these last couple of games, when we needed to score goals in the second half, do you think our transfer strategy has now changed?
Yeah, well, my thinking on that has changed. I mean, I know in the last video, I was very strongly, pushing for the deal with Sancho. And like you said in the beginning, like, we definitely could have used a quality, creative, reliable finisher in this game. But I think the thing that spoke to me more was Ole's unwillingness to use the bench. And I think that's kind of made me a convert, or I see the light now of how we should, probably take that money and use it across the team, across the, defense and the attack and the midfield, to sign many players instead of just one big star. And, had we played better, had we not had the defensive issues like we've seen in the last couple games, I probably would still say like we should push for Sancho as a good finisher. But because of what we've been seeing with the defense, I think that, we need a center back, we need a fullback. Like, great. We also probably could use someone else in the midfield. And heaven forbid Fernandez gets injured. We probably need someone to replace him if that happens. So, like, those are the big things that we should be worrying about, I think.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it's a conundrum, because in that game we created many opportunities. We just couldn't finish them off.
Yep.
So it's like, oh, we need Sancho, or we need Harry Kane. I don't know. Some pundits have thrown his name out. But there's that, you feel that need in defense, but then we give up 2 goals off of just, in my opinion, basic defending. I mean, the first goal we complained because we didn't get a throw in, which we should have gotten, but it's still a Sevilla throw in their half of the pitch, and we let them basically take the ball completely around our 10 outfield players, slide it across the face of goal for it was a decent finish, but it was kind of a tap in.
Yeah.
And Brandon Williams ultimately let his man get the wrong side of him, and he couldn't recover. And then, the second goal, I mean, Williams could have closed down the cross. Lindelof just needs to move 2 yards, and he's in a good position. Maguire could have gone out and helped out Williams. Wan-Bissaka could have moved more infield to cover the striker who he's looking right at. So there's plenty of blame to go around in that back four yesterday.
Yep.
For those 2 goals, plenty of mistakes led to both of the Sevilla goals. And if you just limit one of those mistakes, maybe they don't score those 2 goals, and we're in the final. So, at the end of the day, if our transfer budget is basically the same amount that Dortmund wants for just Sancho, I don't think we should sign Sancho.
Yeah.
I think we definitely need a center back. I'd like us to bring a fullback in as well.
Mm-hmm.
I still think we need somebody some creative force in midfield. I don't think we necessarily need a more of a holding midfielder right now.
Yeah.
I think Modic and Fred and McTominay can potentially do the job as well. I think I would trust them to hold down the fort in that regard. But I would still want that creative player in midfield, and then we'd still need some type of forward. And it's you need, like, the way I see it, we need 4 players. So I doubt we'll sign 4 players, even if we don't sign Sancho. So and we might sign. I think at this point, and I was thinking about this earlier, Patrick, and I want your thoughts on it. But I was thinking, if we sign 2 veteran players from other big, not, reasonably sized to big clubs, and for a decent fee, like 25, 30 million.
Yep.
And maybe like those 2, we bring in those 2 players. Then we also sign 2 really young players, and supposedly that deal for that Serbian winger is already done, but I'm not going to count him in this. But you bring in two other players in their early 20s that maybe aren't highly fancied. And I ripped Liverpool for going to Norwich with 10 million pounds as a slap in Norwich's face for Jamal Lewis. They're talented young left back. But what if we go in with 20 million pounds, which I think would be more reasonable, and got them talking? I think he could come in and offer us. He's definitely good. He's got a lot of speed. I'll give him that. Then it really wasn't really impressed with his defending, I have to say, but he does have talent, and he does kind of remind me a little bit of Luke Shaw. Hopefully he can stay fit more than Luke Shaw.
That's right.
And he's younger than Luke Shaw. But if you go in for 20 million, say, for him at fullback, and you bring in another player in their early 20s for around 20, 30 million, so you end up spending about the same as you would have spent on Sancho. I think that would really improve our squad. What do you think of that?
Yeah, or potentially even arguably less than we would spend on Sancho. But I think that would absolutely improve our squad. If anything, it would give us more options, and I think that's what we're missing, and I think that's the key. And I would take 4 players over 1 player at this point. Much more, than taking just the 1 player.
Yeah. Even if Sancho's more talented, and Sancho, I believe, is still 20, he's super young. He's already super talented. But at the end of the day, you're right. We need to improve across many areas, and just that 1 player, it might be fun to watch, but
I think we could also. I think too, we could wait. I mean, we could wait a little while. I mean, I know that there's already been talk that if we don't sign Sancho, then in the next transfer window, like, I don't know, Barcelona and whoever are really interested in him. So I think or Real Madrid or somebody, some of the big clubs would be interested in putting a bid in for him if it doesn't happen. But I think it's also good to kind of build the base and then bring in someone like a Sancho.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, because I've read the same thing, that this is our one chance to get him, and if we don't get him, then but his contract, he'll have 1 year less left on his contract, so there's a possibility that his price will go down.
Right.
And everything I'm hearing is that Liverpool don't really want to spend this summer.
Yeah.
City want to spend, but Pep apparently holds a grudge against Sancho for wanting to leave the City's academy to go to Dortmund for regular football in the first place. So I don't think City would go back in for Sancho as long as Pep is there. And then I don't think Chelsea at this point would sign him, considering who they signed, or the type of players they already signed this summer. And then I look at the European clubs. The only club I could see potentially signing him or getting close to that fee would be PSG. So that could potentially be our battle, but I don't see Barcelona. Their financial picture is rumored to be terrible right now.
Yeah.
Real Madrid, I think, is a little bit better, but they don't seem to be keen on spending big money like they usually are.
Yeah.
And the Italian clubs are the same way. Juventus, I've heard some rumors that they're trying to actually get Ronaldo's wages off the books. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see Bayern Munich necessarily. They love themselves Dortmund players, but
Yeah. That's true.
I don't see them necessarily going in for Sancho a year from now. So I think it's actually a good risk worth
Yeah.
taking. And you're right. We add more players now, and we have that better foundation in place. And then you bring him in, who would be what then 21.
Yeah.
We still get a good 10 years out of him. So
Yeah.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah. Well, I'm liking more and more. We talked about it previously about Van de Beek. I'm liking more and more that the idea of that transfer as a possibility, because I think he would fit really well in the midfield.
Yeah, I mean, I think I keep bringing him up, so obviously I think he's a great player. So I'm glad you're coming on board with me. Now that you're on board, and well, even if you weren't on board, just because I like him, it was never going to happen. I can live in hope, but yeah, I mean, you sign him and Jamal Lewis; those are your young players that are quality. Well, Jamal Lewis, jury's still out on, but he's talented and has the ability to be a good player. But that's more of your developmental piece. Van de Beek can go in right now as a young player and be part of the established squad.
Yep.
I feel like, and then you bring in two veterans.
Yeah.
28, 29, who maybe were on the bench, and just tell them, yeah, if you come in, you play well, you can get into the side. Which is, I don't think that's a lie.
Yeah.
So I just think Rashford tends to be inconsistent. Martial can be, although I think he's been very mature since we came back from lockdown with how he's played. I've been very impressed with his demeanor and everything. So I think maybe that position's locked. I think he's locked that position down. And but you got Greenwood, who's still young. So there's plenty of opportunity there for anyone wanting to come in.
Yeah.
That's the curtain's now closing on the theater of football. I appreciate Patrick joining me today.
Appreciate being here.
The season's now over. The curtain's now closed on the season for the English football as well. Just a couple games left in Europe, which no English clubs will be a part of. But we'll be kicking off again, I believe, September 12th for the Premier League. I think the Community Shield is the last weekend in August, and then the players go on international break, and then the Premier League starts. But so we'll be back well before that. Yep. So we won't be gone very long. Might just be back in a few days, talk about more transfer stuff, because there's always stuff to talk about there. But for Patrick, I'm Mike. Thank you for watching, and everyone have a great week.
Cheers, everyone.
Oh, hello. Thank you for watching the Theater of Football. If you think Mike got it wrong yet again, please leave your thoughts in the comment section below.